bird. Coming to you not quite live from Pin in the Studios. Bad Yorkers production. I'm Sascha Saintevic. With me is Briano Hawk, munching down on a chocolate. Why, you skipped dinner or something?
No, I'm just fat.
You're indulging it too.
Wait, no. I'm American.
God, do you love it? Okay, well, is there a difference? Oh, I'm assaulting your country, son. What are you going to do about it? You know what? Next I'm going to go after your Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it?
I think we got dumbass Trump trying to do that already.
Yeah, I think the Second Amendment people really love him, though.
Yeah.
I think they really big. You got your stereotypes confused there.
I don't know. I just know he's dumbass.
Like, it doesn't even matter. It's one of the shorthands you don't want to think about.
Yeah.
All right. So, fine. While you're chewing on that, let me introduce the topic for the week. So, we've sort of mentioned it, probably not really. Do not tune into that damn microphone. I will throw this other mic right on your forehead. And it has a cord, but which I can slink it back to me and throw it back a second time. Maybe my aim is good. Maybe it's bad. Maybe I'll get a couple of shots to do it. We'll find out. The fun is in finding out. So today's topic, we've mentioned several times how we think music sort of has a huge cultural influence. So both music itself sort of gets defined by the zeitgeist of the time. So, like whatever happens to be important in the sociocultural, political landscape often defines what music is popular. But we would also argue that music itself sets a lot of these trends. And often it can create entire little mini societies, what you would, I guess, would call subcultures that was sparked strictly by the music itself. So, examples, goth. Like the music itself is what created it. Straight edge. Although a lot of times, the funny thing is like these things eventually evolve to a point where they're not already identifiable with the music genre. Like most straight edge people don't know it was a punk subgenre it started with. Many of them don't even, people would just casually take on the term. A lot of goth people don't listen to like the glam goth of the 80s, like Bauhaus. It took on sort of a life in and of itself from there. But the origins are still sort of there if anyone wants to take a look at them. So I don't know. You want to take off from there, just the cultural.
I'm still chewing.
You still chew faster. Be like a duck, a mighty duck.
Yeah. No. Oh man, that candy bar was good. Yeah. We can't find those here in America.
What, Mars?
Yeah. Them Mars bars.
Here's the thing, Mars Corporation, they make M&Ms and all the other things, so it's not like they don't exist, but the Mars bars themselves, in Europe, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, I distinctly remember them all over the place in Europe. Here, they're not. You find them like the foreign section, the foreign shelf.
You used to be able to find them here, and they didn't look like this, that I remember. And then they kind of just
They were brighter color. They weren't all black, I think.
Yeah, they're different. But yeah, anyways, sidetracked, sorry. Mm-hmm. Where were we? Political,
how music influences the cultural landscape.
The cultural landscapes. I don't know. I mean, music can, you said a lot. It kind of pushes the genre of music you listen to kind of dictates how you dress, in a sense, or your outlook on life. I mean, it's a very broad statement. Well, not everybody is gonna see it that way, so on and so forth, whatever, blah blah blah. But either way, I mean, music is going to influence you, even if you don't think about it. It is going to influence you in your decisions in life, in your daily decision, even. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're watching something on TV. Music is going to help you get into the mood or the scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think I've stated it before. Like if you're watching a horror movie, you're not going to have really, poppy music, stuff. The soundtrack's going to be really dark. It's going to be, ironic stuff.
Like whatever. Henry Hall being played in like Jeepers Creepers.
But that's at one point was a child's song.
Now it's creepy as hell.
Now it's just creepy as hell. I mean, like you're you're watching a horror show or whatever. They're, a really dark, creepy hallway and, sounds going off, whatever. And all of a sudden you just hear something like, oops, I did it again. It's like, what the hell? What the?
Again, unless it's like ironically, I don't know, like it's
and if it starts off poppy and then it just like, creepy or something, then
like wheels of the bus go round and round, round and round. And like it was like something like they would do that in a horror movie, definitely.
But I mean, that's the thing, is you're not going to have something that, it's going to be something creepy. You're not going to like, there's going to show a dark hallway, it's supposed to be creepy, and then you hear like, like, what the hell? It just kind of throws you out. And, and yes, people, maybe listening and be like, well, that's not music. Technically it is. It's sound. It's a track, and it's a score. It's something. But going back toward the more of the, I guess, general statement of what people would,
how it culturally affects you,
culture or whatever. The style of music you listen to does kind of dictate how you dress, how you behave, you behave, things like that. So, like you mentioned, goth. Goth people, people who
are trying to look like other goths. I mean, not to insult them, just
people who dress like, or call themselves goth or whatever. At the first, at least when they're starting, start off goth, and if they started with Manson, they're gonna follow along with kind of what Manson did. Not as out there, I guess, but they're gonna kind of follow that mindset, or they're gonna go like,
the more glam looking.
Or they'll go with like me. I grew up with the 80s crap, and I hated it, and I found Nirvana, and I was like, hey, it's grunge, that's what I dress.
And it influenced
and to this day, I still dress kind of grungy, but I'm not like, oh no, I'm hip with the times. Like, no, I know I dress in the grunge method. It's a little dirtier, a little more whatever, but I don't care.
Right, but I mean, like,
which is kind of a punk mindset as well.
It is, and I mean, like, it's the two elements of this. One of them is like, I like this look, I like to replicate it. I think it defines me, so I'm going to adopt it.
Yeah.
And then, like, so there's and I don't care how the rest of society sees me as there. So there's a non-conformist element to it. Within itself, it becomes sort of a conformist element once you join the society, because everybody wants to look like they belong. So like, none of the, like, if you're like within, the goth subgenre, if you're within a heavy punk subculture, you're not gonna come like with a cardigan sweater and like your hair all neatly combed to the side, like in like khaki slacks and penny loafers, and be like, yeah, I'm just like one of you guys, because even if you're enjoying me, you're not gonna be, let's say, accepted as readily or as easily by the vast majority of the people there.
Yeah.
So you want to look like you belong. You want to be one of them. You want to find yourself as one of them, or identify yourself as one of them. So I'm like, there's always like, yes, non-conformist compared to the rest of society, conformist within the group itself, and tribalistic within the group itself. And again, I'm not saying this is good, this is bad. I'm just saying this is what it is. Like we all do it to some extent. When you go to work and let's say you're at a job where you need to put on a suit and a tie, you do it so you, number one, don't get fired. Number two, so you belong, so you can identify as someone who belongs in that area where you're at. You go to a job where you have to wear any kind of a uniform, any kind of a shirt and whatever to represent the company that you work for. You're doing it so that you're identifiable as part of that.
Yeah,
it's the same thing in your personal life. Now, though, on a deeper level, when we talk about like the cultural influence that music can have, it goes beyond just the individual, because in many ways, the rock music in the 50s sort of defined the concept of like adolescent angst, adolescent juvenile delinquency. Like we mentioned, like during the Elvis sound, like Elvis was directly identified as somebody who gave young men, young teens, a look to aspire to, and also was blamed for like the juvenile delinquency, even though he himself clearly wasn't. He was actually a very clean-cut guy.
Yeah.
His look and his image and sort of, let's just say, the sexual bravado he brought to it sort of became linked with it. And many young people began to emulate it, whereas they didn't have a means of identifying it before. Now they did. Now they had something to aspire to, and that caused a lot of well, the stereotypical teen behavior of the time. So it was created from that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. Like when I say music can have a much wider, much deeper influence on society than just like than just the individual. It can have like much broader, and it can also have political influences. Because what we talked when we talked about censorship in music, the 80s, and now that we have all the parental advisory stickers all over the place. And that episode, check it out.
Thanks, Gore's wife.
Gore himself too. Hit my mic.
Gore too.
Gore himself
is all Gore's wife. He just had to be like, yeah, you guys are gonna listen because I'm, Al Gore.
He went to the internet. Yes, he's the means by which we are producing this podcast.
That's the only good thing he did.
He also invented global warming.
Yeah,
according to some circles.
Yeah, he's I wish he would actually get people to listen with his global warming stuff and not the freaking
parental advisory bullshit he wasted the 80s on. But I mean, like, that had a direct influence in how we consume music and how music is presented to us, because now suddenly there was this distinction, which was, it existed before. This is adult music, this is not adult music. Like, of course the distinction was always there, but now it was like clearly defined camps. Like, now we marked it, now you can go for it whichever way that you lean for it, and the marketplace has sort of went along with it ever since. So in some ways, like, it affects us subtly like that. It affects us much more openly, like, so, like the way it can define an entire generation, like the behavior, the sets of behaviors, and also the things that they idolize.
I mean, you can look at it nowadays, like modern times. I mean, a lot of kids or even younger adults are doing like the, skinny jeans and the, kind of, they're mixing.
The hipster look?
Yeah, the hipster look. But they're mixing old, like, styles with, modern things like looking or whatever, because that's what's in the media nowadays, pop artists and just artists in general. That's kind of how they all dress. Skinny jeans are everywhere. As stupid as I think they are, it's hard not to find, or it's hard to find a regular pair of jeans, not a skinny jeans. It's hard not to find somebody not wearing them. Like at whatever I go to, like, wherever the hell I go to, I'll see people, in skinny jeans or jeans that are way too damn tight for them, even if it's not supposed to be skinny jeans, and then fabrics are now going to where they're stretchy. So to me, that I don't think it's a fashion thing. I think it's just, Americans are getting too damn fat that we can't decide on our damn sizes.
That's the second time you brought that up.
So, we have to start making the jeans and the clothes actually stretch to fit us. So, yes, I am in the more rotundous group of people, unlike you.
You say that as a rotundist American?
Yes, I say it as a fat guy. So, those who say, oh, no, he's fat shaming. No, I'm not. I'm just talking. I'm just talking because, I am one of them. What do they say? You can't talk about it unless you are one? Well, I'm fat.
You say I can't talk about it then?
I could talk about it. You can't, apparently. I don't know. Whatever. Either way.
Feelings.
Either way, I don't care.
Only I can say ginger, though.
Yeah, because, only a ginger can say ginger.
It's over.
Hey. I got a little bit somewhere in there.
No, you got like 2 strands on your beard. What are you telling me?
But either way, yes. Music does influence, like I said, pretty much everything you do. I mean, from a child into adulthood, you're being influenced by things you hear, and here's the thing with me, music isn't just what you listen to. Involves instruments and melodies, melodic things or whatever. To me, music is talking. It's a linguistics thing to me, because that's just kind of the field I like. That's what I'm in. That's what I study. That's one of my passions. So it's when I talk about it, I'm thinking of it in a different mindset than what most people will. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. It's all around us. But talking it strictly as a melodic, form of entertainment, it does like I said, it does influence you quite a bit, no matter what you're doing. I mean, if you wake up to the song you like, something like you just, it's a, band or whatever, something you really like, usually that influences your day to be a better day. Because you wake up and you're in a good mood. Because like, oh, hey, I love this song, whatever. You get up and going. You can wake up and like you turn on the radio and then nothing's on. You can't find anything you like at all. And that's going to influence your day to be a little bit more drab or crappy or whatever, And so you go through your day trying to find something to brighten your mood. So you go through, song lists or you whatever, hum some sort of tune. Sometimes that happens. You get stuck with the tune in your head. And you can't get rid of it. It's stuck in your head all day and you're just humming it. You get annoyed by it. But yet it's influencing you just because it's changing your mood. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, some people listening might be like, okay, well, you're talking about things like the goths. You're talking about things like, the punk scenes. We can even mention like when we were younger, like the new metal, like the whole style of like the baggy pants and the really spiked hair, which was huge in the areas where we lived, like
Jinko jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the areas where we lived, when we were around that age. But they're like, but like on a large scale though, like that doesn't really define all of society. But we can also point to examples like, let's say,
he doesn't want to get off me. Go, Bubba.
You can push him.
There you go.
You can point to something even on a much grander scale. Let's say the hippie movement, which defined pretty much a whole generation and cannot be separated from the music that it influenced, because let's say bands like the Beatles clearly changed the sound to go along with what the times were, to express the times better. So they were heavily influenced by the cultural shift, but music itself caused that cultural shift further, for a large scale of what I guess we'll call Generation X's.
Yeah.
And when then that's the, and I think that's the important part, because that in itself did have ramifications that went beyond music. On a political scale, on in like a social scale, as far as suddenly how people viewed free speech, how people viewed the relationship between government and the citizenry. The anti-war protests, which were heavily linked to this movement, and as well as the sound and the music at the time had a huge political ramification, because suddenly someone like even going back to like LBJ, he really didn't know, and of course Nixon, who was out of touch with every human being because he was more of a robot than a person, like a very corrupt, malfunctioning robot. I think one of the biggest problems that they had, because this generation was coming up and expressing themselves this way in front of them, and they really did not have the means or the wherewithal to really understand what the hell's going on here.
Yeah.
Because suddenly it's like, wait, all these young people are, telling me to F off, both in the songs and also in the protests and all this other stuff. And the sound that they're producing, music often is the sound of the generation that's remembered through the ages, is also explicitly telling me that same thing. This is, decadent, this is debauchery, I don't like this at all. Yeah. And so it changes the way the interaction between, different segments of society, be it, government and citizen, be it, let's say upper class, lower class, working class, because to a large extent, especially with the advent of radio and stuff, suddenly music was available to working class people, on a large scale, because you just had to buy the damn radio and then tune it on to, especially when FM came on, and we'll have a whole episode about radio itself. But when that came on, it really was revolutionary, because now you just pay for the radio once.
Yeah.
Pay for the batteries, whatever. But once you have it, you can listen to the songs of the times as much as you want to, anytime that they're played, and it's going to be played often, because that's what radio does.
Yeah.
It plays whatever's popular at the time. And these are the songs that became popular. And they became popular because they couldn't be ignored any longer as the mediums came on. So that it brings up the interesting question, is it that the music itself is influencing society to the point where it forces the society to identify this sound as an expression of itself, or is it that the society, the cultural shift is influencing the development of this music? So are the artists now being influenced by what's happening inside, or is it sort of a mix between those?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is, I mean, it's pretty much a mix. I mean, there are certain occasions to where the music did influence the shift in thinking or whatever. But then it's also been vice versa, where
it feeds into
whatever was happening fed into the music. So it's one of those, like, it's hard to say exactly what's happening. I mean, there's been political bands and songs out there forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about Rage Against the Machine; they're all political.
Right, but I don't think they've caused any major.
Yeah, they haven't really caused
major shift in thinking. I mean,
they
some of their fans
that.
maybe.
There's
but not really.
The Flowbots who.
Also
very political. They'll go out and actually perform at protests and stuff.
Well, they formed as on what was it, like? It was on a vote, like, rock your vote campaign or something like that. And it was one of those things. Like,
but I mean, they actually performed, in protests and political whatevers and stuff like that, and it drives some people to want to be more proactive or more political. Against government or whatever it is. And you have, artists who are actually promoting, the government and, just the changes and what can happen and blah, 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 things like that. Heck, there's a whole song about, teaches kids what Congress is and bills. I'm just a bill.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah. So, I mean, going into that, I mean, everybody who's, that I know of, everybody who's been a kid from like the 80s, 70s, whenever that thing started, has at least heard a version of that song, or sat and saw the thing in school.
Well, I grew up in another country, and even I heard of it.
So everyone,
the way a bill is made a law in your country has no effect on me in northern Germany, but it's still knowledge.
Yeah, but the thing is, everyone that I know of has heard that thing, and that's actually something that's influenced, in a sense, everybody, because you may think, oh, well, no, I'm not a politician. I don't really care about the government. It's none of my business. I want to concentrate on whatever the hell I'm doing. When someone mentions that Schoolhouse Rock, you're like, oh yeah, it's Schoolhouse Rock. So cheesy. Ugh. And you didn't learn anything about it.
Well, you remember the tune,
but you start remembering it. You start remembering it and stuff like that. So yeah, you are influenced in a sense as a child. And it's like I said, it kind of leads on. And not saying everything you hear, everything that happens in music wise is influencing you to do a certain thing. I mean, you stated it as well. Certain things are going to hit harder,
especially if there's a war going on, a war song is going to hit much harder than if there's isn't one.
But I mean, like, there's, as you're growing up, you hear certain things, certain genres, certain whatever, which gets your mindset to that certain set. And then you kind of go through life with that same mindset. Mm-hmm. Not to say it won't change. I mean, you may start off as a goth and you're like, oh, nobody loves me. I'm just alone. And then you kind of
hit college and you get,
you grow out of it and you start
become exposed to the real world, and also somewhat you have to change because, like, damn, I've got bills. I got to get a job. They don't let me wear the eyeliner and the nail polish.
Yeah, but so some jobs do, especially here.
Well, we live in Austin, Texas. That's a bubble.
Yeah,
in and of itself.
But the thing is, I mean, there's still people who are still like, no, it's a goth thing, and that's what I do, that's who I am, and they still have that lifestyle as a goth, but they're not like, oh, nobody cares, nobody, whatever.
Well, you don't have the teenage angst.
Because they grew up, they do more things, they heard other things, they've heard more styles of music, whatever, just so many different things. They realize, well, that's stupid. I used to do that as a child, but now I'm not a child, or I have freaking bills to pay. Mm-hmm. I gotta, whatever. So, I mean, that's the thing is, you are influenced, but influence does evolve and change, and it does so many different things. But I lost track of what I was going to say. I don't know. Whatever. Go ahead.
The funny thing is, we mentioned teenage angst now, like, sort of inwardly. Nothing contributes more to teenage angst than music itself. I mean, talk about, like, the way they market in on that, like, and really define it. Because you can go, you could be a relatively happy child or so, but then you get to a certain age when you start listening to certain bands, and suddenly you're like, life has no meaning, man. It's like the man is all trying to get you out of. It's all nothing but fascist corporations. And I mean, you didn't. These ideas that were provided to you. You didn't come up with this on your own when you were 13. That's just stupid if you think it is. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not going to get in a political debate with someone about like whether how right or wrong these ideas are. It's just that they're not yours originally. You know that. And I think a lot of it sort of depends also, like whether, like how much is this culture influencing music? How much is it the music itself influencing culture, social culture? It probably all depends on the age range that you're there. So if you're the person if you're a young person, and when all this stuff is happening, you're going to be influenced by the sound because you don't have as much control as to what's going to be around you in your surroundings. Yeah. When the younger you are, the older you are, the more you can sort of, oddly enough, insulate yourself from certain things. And the older, so that way you're sort of passively absorbing. The older you are, you can sort of end up being the one that creates the sound. If you end up going to that field, that sort of will influence these younger people as to like a sort of contribute to whatever mindset it is that you think it's going to be. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes, a particular song will hit and create a whole thing. Like, what was it? The song came out by Minor Threat, Straight Edge. It gave a name to the straight edge people. But it didn't, like, you had some people who were within the punk community who were turned off by the excessive drinking, drug use, promiscuity, and they wanted they want something else. And this band made a 46-second song that influenced it to this day. Yeah. Like, they still exist, they're still around, not, I don't think they're really as strong as they used to be, but, and now there's a colloquial sound, someone who's never heard of the straight edge punk scene will still say, oh, I'm not drinking tonight, I'm going to be straight edge tonight. Without even knowing where the origins come from. But I'm saying, it's something like that can happen. Then you can have somebody who tries to do like a political message which doesn't go anywhere. In 2003 when the Dixie Chicks went against George Bush. At the time, although now many Americans will say that they always knew the war was bullshit. The majority of Americans thought the war was a good idea, was a necessity, and there was a lot of backlash against them. At that time, like a lot of
they ruined their career because of that.
Right, it was a setback certainly at that point, and so they didn't have the influence that I think they thought they would. Were saying it. Now I applaud them; they spoke their mind, as well they should. So they stood by. They didn't change it afterwards. So I give them all the credit in the world for that, but it didn't have like the same sort of influence that in the 60s a song would have when they came out against Vietnam suddenly. And it really started influencing people's perception of
that's the thing though. Like Vietnam War, a lot of people didn't want that to happen. It was like a no.
Well, not at first though. At first though, when it was all about like anti, like we got to stop the communists. But then more stuff started coming out. But more stuff started getting sort of, let's say, leaked. Information started getting leaked when they found out. Wait a second, we were lied to.
Yeah, but a lot of people were still not into that war. They didn't want to be there.
And the draft also.
And then being drafted and everything else, it was just not a good thing.
Had a bad effect.
And people were freaking terrified that they couldn't do, whatever they were their life. They started running and hiding, and presidents
and also as
presidents
soldiers
who weren't presidents at the time ran to Canada or came up with whatever excuse like being blind or something. I don't know. Too many political people who are saying no, we're all about America, and then you ran when it came down to it. All these deferments, rich kids and stuff. Ugh.
Here's the thing: if you were an upper class kid in college, you weren't going to get drafted. I mean, the people who got drafted were mainly working class people. And I mean, there were people, of course, who still volunteered from that same area or whatever.
But either way, but the Vietnam, music, political, against it, for it, things like that. I mean, if you watch a movie nowadays, that's covering the Vietnam War or any wartime about that time, there's one band you're sure to hear. Every single time it's Clarence Clearwater Revival. Mm-hmm. That's what they're synonymous for. It's like, Vietnam War, that's their sound. And I don't know if it's the movies that influenced me. That's like, that's what they sound like. Everything, it's like, I think Vietnam War when I hear them. It's not that they're a bad band. I'm not like, oh, I hate them. I actually think they're okay, but I think, oh, well, that's what influenced it. That's the soldiers who are over there. That's what they heard to get them motivated and moving on. Not Bob Dylan going after them, saying, you guys should get the hell out of there because it's stupid and, you're wasting your life for no, good cause or something.
For somebody else's cause.
Yeah.
Essentially. One that you shouldn't, and that's the point of view. And I said, though, that had a leading effect in the way people responded to the political messages that were going on at the time. And like I said, sometimes it works. Like at that time, it did work. Now, of course, it took a couple of years to get people out of Vietnam. Oh, yeah. But the backlash against it was going on for years. Yeah. The campaign against it, I'm just saying, politicians at that time really weren't that savvy to really get that much pushback from the populace. And I don't think they were really as used to it as they are maybe now. Now they kind of get it. You're going to lose public opinion in a drop of a hat, because now we're all cynical and skeptical, especially post Watergate. Everyone's I don't trust a damn word. All politicians are liars and they're all bullshitting me at all times.
Yeah.
And I say other times when you try to do the same thing, it just doesn't have the same influence, because again, 2003 people were still very much affected by September 11, 2001. And so when you tell them this is an enemy that's, even if you loosely sort of hint connected to that, as they did, now okay, Iraq and Saddam had nothing to do with it. Sure, now we know. At the time, they very much were trying to put the message across that somehow these two events were linked. Later on, even Bush was well, we never suggested. Yes, you did. You clearly did. And so for a lot of people, when someone like the Dixie Chicks comes out and says what this president is doing is criminal, is inexcusable, they'll be there was going to be backlash against them. They did not like that message at all.
Yeah.
So again, in that sense, music isn't all powerful, an influence. No. Sometimes if a cultural standpoint is strong enough, it's going to be really hard to shift it.
Yeah.
Music otherwise. Now, a lot of times though, music works with any other sort of a media or entertainment platform. And if there's a lot of other competing ones, so the message on the news at the time was that this is what we need to do, this is there was virtually no pushback from any other venue. Even other, there weren't really musicians putting out songs against it. A couple of them maybe said maybe this isn't a good idea or something, very passively. But so when the sole outlier says something strong and definitive, what every other platform is telling you one thing, that often will overpower. So you need to get things to a tipping point. If there was only one person putting out the hippie message of peace and love in a time when war was sort of being put on as an important part of defending American values, it probably would have been squashed. And the first ones were. It wasn't until it started gaining momentum, especially it started gaining momentum on campuses with these more affluent younger people who had more influence to get a mic in front of their face. And be heard.
But I mean that's the thing, is part of that was music that pushed it, but it also was cultural, that got it going. So those worked hand in hand in a sense. Like you stated, the Dixie Chicks, they try to put something out in the way that they know everyone's going to hear it because they're musicians and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. So but there was a little backing for them.
Yeah, they stated their opinion and it didn't work for them, and it's
But now now everybody agrees that we're right.
Yeah, everyone agrees with them, and now it works out. But there's no, whatever, and it ruined their career, and everyone's like, oh, Dixie Chicks. It's I wasn't really into the Dixie Chicks.
No,
but I was okay,
I never was.
At least they were, they had the balls to hey, this is wrong what you're doing. Here's the reason why. Here's our song. Things like that. But just going more into an influence. I know we talked about punk influence, goth, Nirvana, grunge.
Yeah, it created a whole
stuff,
subculture.
Whatever. But one thing that I see that still influences, which I'm quite confused by, I guess, is the hip hop culture. Mm-hmm. I'm not confused by hip hop itself. I mean, it's music and I kind of understand it, but I'm not a follower of hip hop for the most part. But why is it that most hip hop artists kind of dress the same, kind of have that same attitude, kind of, it's the look or whatever. And it's not just the hip hop artist that feeds onto the culture. Also, most slum areas look the same way, hoity-toity areas look the same way, things like that. But like hip hop in general, no matter what area it's being played, I guess, you always have this similar look or feel with the artists. And is it because of the hip hop that's what they expect? Or is it just they're influenced by the first people who did it and then they just kind of keep going from there? Because it could have gone a completely different way with like Ice-T. He was hip hop, but he was also kind of punk. And he dressed way out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm confused by the hip hop culture and community in a sense because of the look they go for. A lot of it's like gold teeth or grills or whatever it is, saggy pants or
caps,
things like that. And it was like, why did it go kind of that direction when you could have stayed a little more? There are some hip hop artists who kind of stay more like the well dressed, I guess.
It depends what you mean by well dressed. I mean, if you look at like the style in the '80s, where it was a lot of it was sort of the beatboxing.
But I mean, there's there's few of them that I know of, but like, they're a little bit more, on the trendy side.
Yeah, there was also heavy
dress,
break dancing.
But I mean, in the artists are more on a trendy side, like they, suits or whatever when they're out in public, and then when they're doing performances, they're not like having to hold their pants up while they're walking around,
But I think like that. I think I know what you mean, and this is the way I can explain. A lot of times, sort of hip hop, there's a whole thing of like status.
Yeah.
So that's why in that whole thing, like a lot of times when they, especially when they first start out, they are the voice of the street. The voice of the slums. So like Tupac was really big. That's why he was, the whole thug life thing was about. He said like, I'm from the gutter and I'm still here.
Or Kid Rock.
Yeah, Kid Rock, who grew up, born and raised in a mansion. Now he's in Detroit. Now he's from the freaking slums of Alabama or something. I don't know. I think he's very confused.
It was a joke.
I know, and I was going along with it. Goddamn.
Just in case people are like,
Senator Kid Rock.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, as I was saying, like a lot of it's like, so they're the voices of the voice of the street, poetry of the streets, is often what I said. So they'll express the look, and of course they'll influence young inner city kids. A lot of them will sort of see that and emulate that, because suddenly there is people who came from the same place I'm from, and they become something. Now, once they get up there, you'll see that it's sort of like the music changes. It's no longer about like you could have someone like Ice-T, who's like Cop Killer has a very much a stronger, something even like punk rock sound to it, even back then, as opposed to, like let's say NWA, which didn't have that sort of sound, or like Ice Cube when he was on his own, with Lynch Mob. Suddenly, though, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, when they get to that status point where now they are affluent, they'll sort of put on this sort of a lot of it seems to be influenced by Scarface, like this whole suit area, and like now it's not just about the grills, it's about the rings. Now it's all of a sudden they put on like the suit,
money,
like the reflector. See, and again, sort of peacocking, you're showing off. And all of a sudden the songs are no longer about, like, I'm living, fuck the police, I'm living on the streets. Now it's, I got wads of cash I can flaunt in your face. Like all of a sudden the video is about that, and you got bitches all dancing all around you, because now you're somebody. So a lot of times
that's what I'm saying.
I'm influences that.
I'm confused by the hip hop culture in that sense, because it could have gone so many different ways with it because of the looks and stuff that are out there. But why is it that it's pretty much the same look or feel throughout all of hip hop, and modern hip hop and stuff like that? Now you're getting people like, I forgot his name. Macker or whatever. Macker? I don't remember his name. But, whatever. Now you're getting people who are a little bit more like, hey, I'm here for the music. It's all about, it's like lyrics and I'm a lyricist and a poetry teller, whatever stuff like that. And they're like, well, don't really follow, what I look like, just enjoy the music and enjoy the message, but don't like, try to emulate me. But then you have those kinds that are like, oh yeah, it's all about the money, blah, blah, blah. It's this and that. Also, you can party. And that just gives you a whole image of like, well, if you do, you try this style, lifestyle, whatever you're doing, or this look, you're going to have, all the fame, all the money, all the girls, all the whatever. That's to me, that's what it seemed like. And I'm sitting there like, well, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't, it's really flashy. It's peacocking. And it's confusing to me. That it's like, how do you expect to live that way or leave that message of this is how you should live when you have money, when a lot of it is not in the cultural or not in the environment to where people are going to have that. And so it kind of, I don't know, it's weird.
Here's the thing. Some of it, there's sort of a market value in it. Yeah. So a lot of people are sort of cashing in money by getting these kids to follow that. And this, and then you can say this is cross-genre, right? I mean, Hot Topic can also easily be put into this.
Oh, yeah.
Like an example. So the idea is you yourself don't have status or power or any sort of affluence in any sense. If you emulate the look, although you don't have that level of respectability, you at least can come across as somebody who does. At least this is just my, I'm spitballing, this is my take on it. So a lot of times, even within, like in hip hop like that, it's about, like you yourself will never be wealthy, but you can at least look like somebody who you admire, like who comes from the same thing. Same thing like within, in other genres, you could say like in rock genres, it's on a different scale and it's sort of like a different expression, different look, so to speak. But it's like you yourself may not have the level of confidence that this rock star does. However, if you give off the same image physically, you in some ways will be seen as being on the same level amongst your smaller sphere of influence. And I think it's the same way, like whether it's rock music or hip hop or anything like that.
But here's the thing with
I'm not saying it's a smart way.
No, but here's the thing with that. Hip hop culture, or whatever, not just culture, but hip hop music pushes a lot on the you have to have money.
Stack
you get the
money.
You get the money. You're gonna get the drugs or the girls or the mansions or whatever, and then you have rock genre, which is more like. We can play for you. We're kind of like we're humble, except for like 80s rock. Different story. But
that's peacocking.
That's peacocking. But that's, there's a little more humble to it. Punk is like, screw the community. I don't care. I'm just,
make your own community.
Make your own thing. Just live your own life. Don't worry about what other people are going to be, talking about on your stuff.
It could be detrimental to your career if you start going towards the labels and towards the money, and you start telling people how wealthy you are.
So you have your punk, you have your rock, you have your hip hop stuff, and then you have your goth, which is kind of like, well, leave me alone. I'm a sad child.
Well, it started out as just another music genre. Now
but I mean, that's the thing. Is like they have their own little thing, but it's more like they kind of hide in the corner. They don't want to be seen. Whatever, things like that. And then you have your pop, which is just, a bunch of
I think
flamboyant people. Not flamboyant like, hey. I mean flamboyant like they're like, look at us. Hey,
flashy.
Okay, everybody. Okay, hey.
Flashy and high energy. Yeah. Well, I think, and we're getting now into the economic. Like how music influenced economic routes too, because all of this pertains to what is being marketed to you, to be sold to you. Right. So a lot of that influences. So if every single ad that you see, like of your favorite musician, whatever in the city is going to be in like the hip hop artist, in the suburbs is going to be usually, whatever the popular rock star is. At the time, you're like, no, this is the look I should have, no matter what your background is. This is how you identify, especially if it's not your background. So you have a lot of suburban kids who take on the hip hop look. I mean, have they ever been anywhere close to a hood? Of course not. They shit their pants if they're gonna. In fact, they'll shit their pants. They'll get shot if they come dressed the way they think they should dress. If they go in, because see, that's how it is. It's never quite authentic looking. Like you can go out and you can buy all the clothes that's marketed to you as being part of that look. you're not gonna look like you belong there. It's the same thing if you dress up in a certain way and you go. I think the best representation what I have is like Back to the Future 3. When Marty goes out and the one where they go back to the west, he goes and puts on like the cowboy outfit, and then he goes back there and he's like bright colored and clean looking. Like this is what he thought the perception was because that's what it's marketed to him. But what's he got there is like it doesn't look like this. It's off. It's sorry off. So it's the same thing. Like you actually need to authentically pull it off, and this is where the idea comes to like, especially like amongst more insulated communities like punk, they can spot you if you're faking usually pretty easily. And you're pretty much a pariah at that point. Like they will shun you pretty quickly. And I think that's true for a lot of things. A lot of these things. So economically speaking, a lot of times, so it builds this other economic issue where people who take on this fake version of the look without really bothering to authentically go along with it. So you can dress like a like a hip hop mogul, like a walking on, without actually having to live up to that. Like to some extent, and which is why a lot of them, the ones who actually grow up with it, they can go out. The ones who actually, I'm saying the musicians that brought up that music, let's say gangster rap, they can now, they can put on the flashy suits with the rings and all that because they have nothing. They're up to the status, but they don't have to prove anything anymore. They've got the props for that. Like it's the same reason why, I remember, what was it, like it was like a 1996 interview. Marilyn Manson showed up. It was like one of those MTV interviews. They brought in all his fans, mostly like it was young people, teens and early 20s. And they're all dressed in like in a goth and I guess proto-emo look at the time. And he's wearing a suit. He showed up in the suit. And there was much like, nice suit. He's like, I didn't want to be too predictable. It's because he's already got props within that community. Those people already love him. It doesn't really matter. And now they all feel probably kind of stupid because they're like, damn it, we put on this look to have a certain image, and then he went on, and they sound totally different. So like once you get up to that status, you can dictate the way that the market goes. But as far as like like the economics of it, you are going to be sold a look. Like I keep saying, like punk was created to sell you a look. As much as people talk about authenticity within it, it was deliberately made to look a certain way, and it was made in a way that, with a lot of genres, in a way that even the majority of people who consume it, the working class people, could go out and buy and identify with it. So it's cheap for looking for a reason. It was
that thrown together look that worked out.
But
I mean, that's the thing. It's you're talking about the image as an artist, like their look, not their music, in a sense. But talking about the music part of it, like I said, I'm confused by the cultural, I don't know, the coagulation of like hip hop stuff, because they all pretty much talk about the same thing, things like that. Country until late 2000s, it was pretty much one style thing. Now they're trying to mix in a lot of pop. And I think country, as bad as it was, is getting even worse, because they're like, oh, no, we're pop country, we're country, but we can be played on pop stations.
Yeah, and then there's rock country.
But no. If you want to go into call yourself a country artist, you should pay respects to the greats. Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, I don't know, where else? I can't think of any right now. You should pay respects to them, and not saying, oh, you play their music, no, you play like them. No. But don't be like, oh, yeah, no, we're country artists, but we play pop as well. It's like, you're either a country artist or you're a pop artist. Choose your damn genre, so, because you're trying to move with the times, you're trying to get things going. Right. But you should show respect, in a sense, to what you grew up with. Other than, what was his name, Clint Black? I think it was Clint Black who did he changed the sound and everyone got mad at him. Was it whatever? But anyways, other than him doing like, he changed his whole name, is a whole different person. Christopher Gaines.
Yeah,
Chris Gaines. He wasn't like, oh no, I'm blah,
Garth
blah.
Brooks.
I'm Garth Brooks. That's it. I'm Garth Brooks doing pop music or just style, more
Yeah,
pop music.
it
was like, I'm Chris Gaines
he became a different person.
for this. So that's the thing is, I mean, yes, they can show your talent by playing the different things, but you should concentrate on doing that one, like the one genre in a sense.
But hold on. Chris, sorry to cut you off, but Chris Gaines, the character was one, his look is clearly influenced by what he thought, and to a large extent, let's say what he thought was sort of the alternative look. So, and to a large extent, he was right, because people did buy it. Yeah. So that shows in the concept that, like, I know I said, like, people within that group can spot you, but like to people who just sort of passively look through it, you can easily pull it off. Yeah. Like, people like within, I think I mentioned once that, like, let's say you want to go ahead and you want to pull off the goth look. To the hairdresser, you put on black nail polish, you're goth. Yeah. To within goths themselves, if you do that same thing, put on black and you put on black nail polish, but you put on a Linkin Park CD, all of a sudden they're like, no, you're not goth. That's not goth. That's at best you're like an industrial emo kid.
But I mean,
and it's like they fragment within
to
themselves.
The community, to like the goth community, you just throw on the black and nail polish, whatever. They'll know you're not goth. Mm-hmm. There's like, oh no, I'm goth. They're like, no, you're not. You're not. Even you can tell a goth kid, even when they're not dressed goth, if they're more in that community, you can tell. You'd be like, oh no, that's goth. And it's someone who looks like he's more just like dressed or whatever, just because he has to go to work and he's not like, oh, have the the fishnet stockings on and on his arms or whatever, and all the makeup and stuff. He's just going to do his thing. And afterwards, then he puts on his whatever more goth apparel where he's comfortable. And you can tell it's not just a look; it's a mannerism. It's whole thing, and that's what I think is influenced by the music in a sense. Your mannerism and how you act or you walk, how you talk, how you do all that stuff, and that is influenced by music. Now I know we've been talking about like punk and all this stuff and hip hop now and so on and so forth, more modern things, looks. But if you think about it. Can you think of a classical artist, not like ancient classical, someone who grew up listening to classical music, someone who plays classical music now, something like that? Can you think of one that's more like, dressed as a pop person or goth or any of that stuff? No, right? It's kind of a like.
I'm sure somebody will send me a link to one. But
anytime you think of someone who's like more in the classical music, type thing, they're well dressed, hold themselves properly. You think of it more like, oh, well, that's a, hoity-toity in a sense. Someone who's like, oh, they're cultured. They don't have to be cultured to play this stuff, but yeah, they probably are more cultured because they had the money to
be
spend time to practice and being exposed by
part
everything
of that
else.
Is sort of the background of it. In order to be exposed to an environment where you like do opera, opera isn't cheap. Yeah, no. Theater isn't cheap. Yeah, and it's usually reserved to a certain group of people. So you come from a certain background where that particular image is going much more prevalent. Same thing like with rock music and hip hop music.
But even there are stories of people who's like, oh well, I come from not well off family. I had to struggle to get this and that, and they bought me my first violin.
Right, I mean
from
it
there,
happens,
whatever. But when you're talking to them now and they're known, you don't see them as like, oh well, they're from the streets. It's like no, you're like this is a hoity-toity. Whatever.
You don't see too
culture and stuff. And it's not just, it's the music that's influenced the way they are. They may not be cultured in the sense of like, knowledge and stuff. They were like, oh yeah, when it comes down to their style of music, that classical stuff, they can blow you out of the water with it,
they're not
what they concentrated on. But the way they act and hold themselves, I think, is influenced by the music itself as well. It's not just like, oh well, no, you grew up and you have to be, hold your teacup a certain way and dress a certain way. It's like, no, it's proper positioning when you're playing your instrument's going to have you play longer, more comfortably, stuff like that. If you're playing the piano and you're playing like this or this, your wrists are going to freaking hurt. Proper positioning, you're going to move around. You can play 3-4 hour concerts because some songs are freaking long. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the thing is it's the music that influenced that whole look, a little more high class, highbrow in a sense. Then the hip hops are kind of just relaxed and chill and like, hey, yeah, man, man, Snoop Dogg.
And then punk
he's just like
he's too mellowed out. And then and in punk music, it's about like the more raw and the more like a beat up it is, held together with pins and duct tape. The more it's respected in some sense. In those circles.
But then your rock people are kind of just back.
But again,
don't look at me.
Yeah, I need my shield. The thing though is, we're talking about all this, and we occasionally mention like the hippie movement is greatly influenced, and that has ramifications that influence how society develops socially thereafter in every segment. But a lot of times, though, a lot of stuff we mentioned still remains really insulated in that the majority of society isn't affected by the look or by the musical influence that like whatever a song or a band or a group of bands has had, let's say, on the punks, the hip hop artists, on the goths, on the metalheads or anybody else. Like the majority of people aren't in any way affected by that, other than like they'll maybe the billboards that they see. And like what back in the day, like what MTV would choose to focus on, and that in many ways influenced the way the young people dressed. The MTV generation of the 80s and the 90s. So
where the culture was, with the 80s going into the early 90s. The metalheads were like Metallica people who still to this day try to keep that look, and it's stupid. Just like freaking Metallica being stupid.
There we go.
No.
People know what this means.
Yeah.
Drinking game.
Yeah, I already mentioned Trump though, so I just had to get Metallica in there before we ended this whole thing. That's just going into that. The look, like metalheads. You come from the '80s, like hair bands, and then you had the Metallica-ish whatever. We're like, okay, well you don't have so much frizzy hair. You can let it down, be a little more rocker. It was stupid looking either way. Both of those stupid looking. And yes, grunge, people can say it looks stupid. Yes, it does. But hey, that's the look I have.
The problem is everything looks stupid to someone's eye.
I
wore the baggy pants back like in middle school.
MC Hammer pants, everyone did those.
Well, not the parachute pants. I said the baggy pants.
The MC Hammer pants.
Yeah, if you can. I didn't have a dance moves for it. But so I wore the new metal look, like in like whatever early 2000s.
Because you're trying to emulate somebody.
And you can see how quickly, for the people who say like, well, you guys are sort of trying to give music more influence than anything. Think of the shift from 80s, 90s, glam to grunge. The look, the music came first in that.
Yep.
It wasn't the look that came, it was the music came and it defined the look. So everybody is like, whatever, like the people who are heavily into music, like glam is acceptable. All of a sudden, okay, it's fine. Even if you're not emulating it, you accept it. Yeah. Suddenly, that it's dead. Yeah, it's dead overnight. Now grunge is everywhere. Yeah. Like that look is everywhere. Flannel is everywhere. torn up jeans are everywhere. At the knees.
Here's the thing
but the music came first in that. Like that's a direct thing where the music clearly influenced the look of the society, at least for youth culture. As opposed to it being the other way around. It wasn't influenced by society. It's not like all these kids suddenly went, I want to give up all of this that I thought was cool, and I want to put on this other stuff.
But here's a quick tangent on the sidetrack.
Sure.
Flannel. I like flannel. Mm-hmm. But just because it's a plaid shirt doesn't mean it's freaking flannel. I'm telling you. I've had so many people come up because I have a ton of plaid shirts and they're like, oh, you like wearing flannel? It's like, no, I don't like wearing flannel because flannel's freaking hot. It's not cold here, so I'm not going to be wearing freaking flannel. It's a plaid shirt. Get it right, goddammit. You guys need to know difference between flannel and plaid. Plaid has stripes. Think Scottish. It's just not so fuzzy.
It's fake flannel.
Okay?
It's flannel.
It's flannel, yes. So, this is, like I said, quick tangent. Just you mentioned that flannel. It's like, ugh, I hate it. I have people come up to me and tell me this all the time.
That goes what we said. Like, people usually, they'll identify things really quickly. They'll see, you have one element of whatever the look is, whether you're trying to be part of it or not, and they'll just identify you with it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like, yes, I admit I still dress kind of grungy, but I don't wear flannel. God damn it. It's plaids.
This hit you really hard.
Yes. Sorry. Like I said, quick tangent. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think that we've pretty much covered this topic to its extent. It's, I mean, like many things, it's a mix.
Yeah.
As far as there's clear situations in which the music, like I mentioned, like the shift from glam to grunge, the music was the main catalyst to that. That changed the look of the time, and what was socially acceptable now for young people to dress like. And again, you could say like in the 60s, the counterculture revolution there was heavily influenced. Yeah. Although that I would say is more of a mix. I think the music was influenced by the social shift and the baby boomer kids becoming adolescents, and you can also and it went the other way too, which influenced the music influenced that look, and the look influenced the music, as many artists were clearly inspired by it.
Yeah.
In other times, it doesn't do much of anything at all.
Yeah. Here's something else just popped in my mind.
Yeah.
One look that everyone gets really, really quickly in their head when you mention the style of music. Polka.
I got it in my look. I see an accordion. I see lederhosen.
Lederhosen, the what is it? The freaking straps.
Those breeches things?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of the other word for it. You know, the shirt, the white shirt, the short thing, really shorts or whatever, the hat, and you have to polka, which is what most people think when they hear German. Hey.
Well, even though it's really, people also a lot of times,
but it's more Bavarian or something.
It is Bavarian.
Austrian.
Yeah, my Prussian upbringing is very much against that. Also, the other thing that people often think of when they hear like, "Oh, you go up to," so you like techno music?
Yeah, techno.
No, I don't give two shits about techno music. I don't give two shits about soccer either.
Yeah,
which everybody's.
But yeah, just cultural, like what people think. You hear polka, and it's like, oh yeah, well you're gonna be in your lederhosen and you're gonna be whatever. It's the same damn beat. To me, polka music and Tejano are the same damn sound.
Now imagining a bluegrass with guys in a jug.
Yeah, it's all the same sound. But anyways, yeah.
Those are your final thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, polka gonna have a huge economic, political influence at some point, I'm sure. I mean, somewhere in some small city in Bavaria, they're nodding their head right now. And they'll bring it back.
Just like bagpipes, You hear the bagpipe. First thing you think is some hairy, red-headed guy with a big-ass beard walking around in his kilt.
All Scottish people will nodding your head around your little tangent about plaid and flannel. They're like, oh, yes, that's clearly.
You got it right, boy.
That's clearly what it is. All right, so we'll wrap it up on that. I know we were on air last week. We took a week off, so we are back to the weekly schedule now, hopefully.
Yes. We had our season break.
Yeah, that's a 1 week break. Keep in mind, guys, what we do here is a hobby that we do on the side. We have actual day jobs. So if every now and then there's like an upload that's 1 hour late or something, like we'll say it's Sunday, and it's Sunday by us when we upload, but your time zone is like 2 hours behind us or 2 hours ahead of us, and it's like whatever, 1 a.m. Monday morning, work with us here. We're trying to wrap this up like in between a million other things we're doing in our daily lives.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, and if you like us, follow us. We're on iTunes. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. You can visit saintsoblasphemy.com, which is probably the easiest way to follow us. Oh, yeah. If people are like, wow, which way do I? Go to saintsoblasphemy.com.
You can find
one word. There. You can find out. We upload the audio. We upload the video there. There's a link to our Twitter there. It's the best way also to get in touch with us if you want to communicate with us.
Yep.
Also, send us a message through that. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us that we suck. Tell them that you can't understand a damn word I say.
Yeah.
What is that ginger-haired German guy talking about? All right, and join it. But above all else, join us again next week on Saints of Blasphemy. All right, you have a good day.